Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at Riderflex. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the Riderflex show for updates on new episodes. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out the book we recently launched, The Riderflex Guide, Inspiring and Hiring, available for purchase on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Vic Kennett on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, Vic. How are you, sir?
Hey, good, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. Great to have you on here. Looking forward to getting into it. Anybody that's had a business for 36 years and kept it open, that's a tiny group of people in the country, just so you know. So I want to get into all that, but I want to get into the personal stuff first. Are you in Arkansas today, near Fayetteville?
Yeah, Northwest Arkansas. We're about an hour east of Fayetteville and Bentonville, in a wonderful little town called Berryville.
I just heard the accent kind of came out there a little bit. So did you grow up in Arkansas, or where
No, not much of an accent, depending on where I am.
Okay.
No, my folks retired here from the Chicago area when I was in the 5th grade.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah, but
Were they older?
Yeah, they were. We may get into some of that story,
Yeah,
but
sure.
yeah, my dad was 54 when I was born.
Wow. Okay.
Mom,
Yeah. What? Okay.
mom was 42, and it's been a
fifth
great
grade.
life down here in Arkansas. Yep.
5th grade. Okay. Where were they before that? Where were you before Arkansas?
The Chicago area in suburb of Chicago near Hinsdale.
Okay. Well, give me the story. What happened? Did your mom and dad have a bunch of other kids and then you were in an accident?
Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, God's plan, there are no accidents, but I have a brother who's quite a bit older, and my sister who's departed. She was 12 years older than me, and my brother 15 years older. But my dad's first wife passed, and he remarried.
I see.
And so, my brother and I came along from our mom, his second wife.
So you had 2 half siblings or 1 half sibling?
2.
And then one brother,
Yeah.
from, I see. Okay. All right. Very good. What happened to his first wife? You don't mind me asking, was it a sudden thing or?
Breast cancer. Yeah.
Ooh, tough. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What did your dad do for a living?
My dad, when I knew him, of course, he had a few lives in his life, but I knew him as the owner of a sales and marketing group that was based out of the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. And for those that aren't familiar with the Merchandise Mart, at one point in time, it was the largest building in the world. Not the tallest, but the most square feet under roof.
Wow.
Was the Merchandise Mart downtown Chicago. So for any who are familiar with the Atlanta Mart or the Dallas Mart or the Vegas Mart or the Merchandise Mart in Chicago was at one time the premier place to go, with showrooms of all kinds of merchandise, whether it's housewares or gift or you name it. And he had a showroom and a small group of sales reps, and they were manufacturers' representatives, represented a handful of vendors.
All right.
And got their wares placed in all kinds of retail locations.
Wow. Was he an entrepreneur even before that as well? Or was he an executive?
Yeah.
And that was his first journey into?
No, he was an entrepreneur, I believe, and he wrote an autobiography. It's wonderful.
Awesome.
And so many great things in there. But I think he and a partner owned a furniture store at one time. and
Wow. All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He went to school. His original, hope was to be a journalist. So he went to Northwestern to study journalism, and the Great Depression interrupted that quest. And
What year was he born?
1910.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I bet his autobiography is great. I mean, he went
It
through
really
this.
is. Navy. Um, when he and a college pal were 19, they took a canoe from Chicago to New Orleans.
Cool.
Yeah, really, really cool life. Yeah, really great stories.
Oh, that's pretty. Navy during World War II. Was he? I guess
Yeah,
that was. Yeah.
yeah. Navigator on a sub chaser, and
Okay.
really cool.
54, you were in fifth grade. When did he pass? I'm assuming he's passed.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. I was only 27. He had I think just turned 80. So
Okay,
yeah,
but good. So he lived long enough to get you all the way to 27. That's wonderful. Now,
yep,
so those people born then that went through the Depression and so forth and World War II. I mean, those guys are a little different breed. Was he pretty
yep,
tough? Was he pretty tough?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Very, very tough but fair, and you kind of you know where your boundaries are, and you don't cross them, or you pay the price. Um, and so yeah, you don't leave that light switch on. You don't waste that last swig of milk. Um, refrigeration for certain condiments is optional. I didn't know ketchup was supposed to be red until I moved out, and my wife and I thought brown ketchup was just okay, but
That's so good. That's a good story right there.
you don't waste stuff.
Isn't it fascinating? And of course, a lot of people now, younger people, didn't get a chance to experience visiting with people that went through the Depression. But boy, you just a completely different mentality, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I've told this story on the podcast before, but I had a neighbor. This was probably 15 years ago, and she was 90 at the time then. My wife had thrown out some curtains one time in the back in the trash can. And she was one of those old ladies that kind of just she kept an eye on, if you couldn't do anything without her knowing. Anyway, later that afternoon, she knocks on the front door. Keep in mind our trash is in the back, right? She knocks on the front door later that afternoon, and she's holding those curtains. And she goes, somebody threw these curtains out. And and she proceeded to give me a 15-minute lecture on, and I was, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am,
Yeah.
I just told my wife, I'm like, these people just went through things we can't even imagine, completely different mentality. So,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
was your,
absolutely. I felt like I've always related really easily to people who are, probably 20 years older than I,
yeah,
just because of, how I
mhm,
was raised and maybe how they were raised
yeah,
versus a lot of, my peers, but it's a
yeah.
blended.
Was your mom, was she was she the one that passed out the hugs and kisses? Was she softer or was she tough too?
Oh yeah, yeah. As I think is probably typical of most moms, it was like, certain things she knew she wasn't going to tell dad because she didn't want to see what that looked like,
Yeah.
a lot of times.
And you and your brother, now you guys grew up similar ages there. Were
Yep.
you a good kid? Were you straight A student and, and all this, or were you a rebel? Like
Um,
where were you in the mix there?
yeah. So yeah, my older brother, full brother, he's about a little over 2 years older than I. So yeah,
Okay.
we grew up,
Okay.
pals and comrades. And no, I was not a strong student. I in general through public school did enough to get a decent grade. I didn't work really hard at it, to study like I got to get that A. I didn't care that much about it, honestly.
Okay. Sports?
And
Sports?
yeah, yeah. basketball, baseball is where I excelled.
Okay.
Very small high school in Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
Graduating class of 1981, 34 students. And academically, I was firmly in the middle there at like number 17.
But you got into U of A.
Got into U of A. Their standards were much lower back then, admittedly.
And
but I did become a good student when I went to school. I got serious. I'm like, okay, my parents have saved. I started working when I was 12, and I was made, you put money away. This much is going to go into your college fund. You're going to invest, and things like that. So when I got to school, I don't know, a switch flipped, and I got serious for a while, and I was dean's list, and really engaged, straight A's, and really doing well.
What happened? Did you finish?
I did not finish. Grades continued to suffer. The grade to social activity seems to be on a opposing teeter-totter of how that works. And so the social activities went up, the grades went down. The motivation for being there, why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. I don't really need this. And turns out I was right.
And you were on the I see that you were on the boxing team. How'd that start?
So they had I forget who was promoting it. So it wasn't strictly the university promoting it. It was, there was a guy involved who was a sparring partner of Muhammad Ali. Oh. And he had this idea to create collegiate boxing kind of in the Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma area and begin it that way. And so they put on a tournament. They were going to choose two from each weight division and form a team and start getting ready. So we did that, and they put on the tournament, and I made the team. I think I was fighting at like 158.
Okay.
That was.
What are you, about 6 foot tall? How tall are you? About 6 feet?
No, thank you. No, more like 5'8". And
you were okay. You were a thick guy. Yeah, you're
yeah.
You have some mass in there.
Yeah. Yes. That's it. That's how to describe it. And so made the team, and we worked out for a while and trained, but never got the funding from the university, so it disbanded. Yeah. So anyway,
it was fun though. It was fun.
Right. Absolutely.
Was faith, because obviously you're running a Christian-based faith company, right? So was faith and religion, had that always been a part of your life from your parents when you were a kid? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So there was some faith growing up in our home from my mom.
Okay.
But it was, at least from my perspective, right? It was, for me at least, it was just going to church. It was never really real to me. And so in the 5th grade, I remember declaring my theology was, I'm an atheist. So really? I decided that in the 5th grade. And I remember, I don't know, how far back, and this would have been 74 maybe.
Yeah.
That, the Gideon's International, who, a lot of hotels still, you open the drawer.
That's right.
There's a Bible. It's been placed there by the Gideons, and they used to be allowed. I don't know where they still are or aren't, allowed into schools, and typically in the 5th grade, and they would hand out a small pocket
I remember.
testament.
Yep.
It was
I
either
remember.
red or it
Yep.
was green.
Yes.
And so they came into our 5th grade class, and they, here's who I am, and here's
Yep. Yep.
the Bible.
I do. I went
And
through that. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I'm not much younger than you. So yeah, I remember those. I remember. Yep.
Yeah. And so I remember there was this one buddy of mine who we decided also, like, we had this in common. We're both atheists. And, in a small southern town, which is really rare, thank God, that was rare. But I remember I took the peer pressure. I took the New Testament, and my atheist pal was glaring at me like, so he was pretty serious in his position, maybe from his family. I don't know. I came to this conclusion on my own with, no input from my parents. I just decided that's who I am.
Yeah.
But then, fast forward, I guess I would have been a sophomore.
Okay.
And I'm 15 years old, and
mom is still kind of going to church from time to time, or every Sunday, or
when we moved to Arkansas, and I don't know, the upheaval and not a friend group yet and whatnot, and we were building a house out at the lake, but lived in a different home in town. And anyway, she stopped going.
Okay.
At that time.
All right. But all right.
She returned, after, but
right.
after my father passed, or no, before then. But anyhow.
Yes. Okay. So all right,
so
you're
I'm
a sophomore.
15.
Yeah.
And my mom says, "Hey, I'm going out. There's a yard sale," and we're pretty rural, but someone was having a yard sale.
Okay.
And I said, "I'll go with you," which was kind of not my normal MO. I would have been doing something else. So I went with her, and there was a table full of books, and I wasn't a big reader, but this one book caught my eye, and I bought it for a quarter. And it was a book by Hal Lindsey. This book sold millions of copies back in the 70s. It's called The Late Great Planet Earth.
Okay.
And I've met so many people that are around my age, your age, a little older, who've like, yep, me too. And it was through that book and how Lindsay presented really the reliability of Scripture, of the Bible, as a historical document that could be trusted, that there were more early manuscripts of the Bible than there were of Josephus's work, and his work is taken as, that's historical fact. So it was through some of this evidence and the presentation of the hundreds of prophecies written in the Old Testament that were fulfilled in the person of Jesus Christ and his coming and his death, burial, and resurrection, that through these, what I believe to be proof and facts, I came to faith.
Right there.
We call
at
it
the age of 50. Wow.
A step of faith, not a leap, because this evidence brought me step by step closer. Yeah.
At a very vulnerable time as a teenager, when you are tempted with so many other things.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and those things did not go away.
Yeah. I mean, raging hormones, all your friends are drinking beer. I mean, that's man. I'm sure there had to be some backsliding in there from time to time through your high school years.
Oh, for sure. So my heart was changed.
Okay.
My outward behaviors went through the same pattern as a lot of young people. And I alluded to that earlier in the college years. So it was
okay, but your faith was always with you at that. From that point forward, the faith was there. But temptation for humans at that age is, I mean, you're going to have some things.
Yeah. And so I lived, a fairly typical teenage years. But
Okay. Yeah. Very
later
good.
on, I made a deeper commitment, and felt
Did you
like
think
I was.
about, did you think about being a preacher at all going into, no?
No, as far as yeah, no, but
No. Okay.
God led me in another direction,
Yeah, right,
and
right. Yeah, which
yeah,
is awesome. One
yeah.
more before we get into the business, I want to ask you, it's interesting, your dad, my mom and dad would say, gosh, we have a very similar story. So I'm Oklahoma instead of Arkansas, but pretty much the same thing, right? And my dad was born in 37, so not as, but still born in that time where just kind of that tougher, not a lot of hugs and kisses, very demanding
Yeah.
guy. And same thing. My mom started going to church, and dad was not having any of it. I mean, he's like, no, no. And that ended up, that was one of the key reasons for the divorce. I'm sure there was a bunch of other things, but she pushed him on it, and he was just like, no. And she could not get him to go. He just never did. But so I had a very similar story. But
Yeah.
okay, so okay, at that point you're in school. Why did you decide to drop out? Were you already thinking entrepreneur and you had this business idea? Walk me through that little timeline, because looking at your LinkedIn, there's a short window between, okay, I'd stopped school and boom, I started the business. Can you talk to me
Yeah,
about that? Yeah.
sure, you bet. No, it was the grades kept getting worse. The motivation to be there, the vision for why I needed to be there,
Okay.
just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a plan other than I need to leave here,
Okay.
school.
All right.
Dropped out. This would have been at the end of first semester, so fall semester. At the end of fall semester, my junior year, I believe.
Okay.
And me and a buddy got in my 1978 King Cobra Mustang.
Cool.
302 with the Holly
All right.
4-barrel,
All right.
and the
All right.
putting out a whopping maybe 300 horse, which is nothing. The V6. We're on a tangent here. The V6 of the basic Mustang today puts out over 300. So anyway,
yeah,
not that really cool car though.
Yeah.
And move to Key West. I said, I'm going as far south as I can go this winter.
Had you been to Florida before? You did?
No. But I went to Florida on a spring break, deal, a whole another story. But
Duval Street in Key West is not exactly what I would call a religious atmosphere.
Yeah, no. Revival had not broken out there yet. And so I got a job as a waiter at Billy's Bar and Grill, and was living in a kind of a boarding house.
I mean, hey, that's at that age. Hey, man, you go for it, right? Yeah.
I had my room and my mattress, and the bathroom was down the hall. And
that's all you needed.
Yeah,
that's all you needed.
Yeah. There was a gym up the road, so I was working out in the morning.
Yeah,
started my shift at noon, and anyway, so did that for a handful of months. Got kind of, I should go home now.
Okay.
And then I got the idea of starting a gym. So I went through that. My dad was a great source of help and thinking through, well, how are you going to do that, and what's that look like? And I opened a fitness center in little town of Eureka Springs. We had racquetball. We had, back in the day, they called it aerobics. You remember Jane Fonda and the leggings and all that. So I had an aerobics instructor, and I wasn't even 21 yet.
Did your dad, did he give you a little bit of funding to get started on that?
I still had some college savings.
Okay.
That I hadn't blown through yet, that was there and available to seed that and launch that and buy some equipment. And
All right. Very good. Okay, cool. Just wondering how you got started. All right. Sorry, I cut you. You were I cut you off there. But
so started that, and learned a lot about people and sales
Yes,
and business and
yes, yes.
responsibility, and and was doing something I loved.
Great experience. Where was it located?
It was in a hotel that had already put in the racquetball court, and they had another room ready to do another court. That's where I put my weights, and then office, and they had the
Is this in Arkansas?
yeah in
Okay.
Eureka Springs,
Okay. All right.
home of the great Passion Play and the
Nice.
Fighting
Okay.
Highlanders.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So cool. So this is your first entrepreneurial journey. Okay, great. And how long did you keep it?
It's a couple years. So, I had the big drive. I signed up. I had over 500 members, which at that time was
Pretty
more
good.
than 10% of the population of Eureka Springs.
Everybody knew who you were. You could run for mayor.
I could have, I guess. But that it was a little different than it is today. Today, in a decent sized town, lots of people are at the gym, and a lot of people are consistently at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But there's turnover, right? The gym fills up after New Year's resolutions, and then slowly the population drops. And so I signed up 10% of the population with an annual membership because there were incentives.
That's great. Good for you. Nice job.
And then they decide, I'm really not using this. And then they don't sign up. So, maybe I kept about 150 or 200 members. It just wasn't working out. I was working, 12-hour days, and, my income was probably averaging less than $5 an hour based on the metrics.
And no family at this time, not married, kids, nothing like that. No, you got
not married yet. I did get married while, toward the end of the gym career.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it wasn't working out. You're like, so you shut it down, I guess, eventually.
Shut it down. That was a real, kind of a blow, maybe a little ego blow, first kind of big failure. But, I've learned that, and I tell my kids or anyone else that will, bear to listen, that, as long as you're failing forward, you're not failing. And then until you just give up, you haven't failed.
I love that. I've heard that before. Yeah. Until you give up, you have not failed. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So you had gotten married. How'd you meet your wife?
Oh boy. She was the younger sister of my girlfriend's best friend.
Okay. All right. And you had known her before. You had back when you lived there before, and then you came back home and she was around or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of funny coming when I came back from Key West. I knew a guy who's a real estate guy, pretty good money. He owned his own limousine, and he knew me probably from the gym. And or no, that was before the gym. Anyway, I don't know how he knew me. Baseball maybe. And he said, "Hey, I need a chauffeur this weekend." He was going down to Little Rock, so I had a hat, I had the bow tie, and I drove his limousine. And on the way back, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I stop at a house?" "Sure."
Nice move.
So so I'm pretty smooth. So I pull up to the house in the limousine. I got my thing, and I asked my future wife for a date. "Hey, I'm back in town. Would you like to go out?" So the rest is history.
That's great.
This year we will celebrate. Let's see, it's 23, 38 years. I hope I got that right. 38 years.
Congratulations. Yeah. Now, of course, when you were pitching her back when you were courting her, she's like, "Oh, he's a business owner. He's this and that." And then right after you get married, the business shuts down. And she's like, "Okay, now what do we do?"
Yeah. So, she, she stuck it out, and through like this crazy idea of, t-shirts, really? Yeah.
And what was she doing? What was she working?
She was waiting tables and doing extra jobs there. It was cleaning the bathrooms. That paid for our first nice trip together. Our honeymoon was just about a 4.5-hour drive to St. Louis. That's all we could afford. And but she saved up, and we went on our first real vacation about 4 years later. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a cool story. I can't imagine you meet her dad, or you talking to her dad, and her dad's like, "No, what are you doing? Okay, so you're shutting the gym down. You don't really, what t-shirts? You don't
Yeah.
really have like
I
how are you going to take
I
care of my
think
daughter?"
back in that day, and there was 5 kids. I think as long as there was someone who's a decent person was willing to come along and take one of them off their payroll, they were fine with that.
So that's a good one. All right, very good. Okay, so yeah, tell me, let's get into the business. Tell me t-shirts, how'd you have the idea? Kerusso.com, right? For all, am I
Yep,
right?
that's right.
Kerusso.com for all the listeners. How'd you have the idea? How'd you get started? Talk to me.
Yeah. All right. So when I was 15, at that very formative stage, and
Yeah.
I was actually managing a small t-shirt shop. Eureka Springs
Oh,
is
okay.
a really cool town. It's one of its nicknames is the Little Switzerland of the Ozarks. So it's built all over the hills, and as the name would imply, the natural springs of that town is what brought a lot of people to it. Back in the 1800s and forward. So anyway, I had a little bit of exposure to t-shirts
Okay.
by running this t-shirt shop, and it was the kind where you picked out a transfer, and you remember anyone who's old enough remember which is still one of the best-selling t-shirts of all time, was the Farrah Fawcett poster.
I had one, man. I had the poster. I didn't have a t-shirt, but I had the poster.
How could you not have one?
I mean, yeah,
And
everybody knows.
and
Everybody knows.
and on a t-shirt. So it was that kind of thing. All these different transfers. Pick out your shirt, pick out the transfer, and then I put it on there for you. And so that was my first t-shirt exposure,
Okay.
really. And then so I was after the gym, after I got my real estate license and tried my hand at that for a little while. I was now doing carpentry.
Wow.
Um,
All right. You're
so
just hustling. You're just hustling. You're just
I'm
hustling.
hustling,
Yeah.
handyman. Although I told you, my grades weren't spectacular, I took a lot of shop classes.
Okay. All
I
right.
took a lot of shop, and I loved
All right.
shop
All right.
and the influence and the impact it had on me. So I was pretty handy. We built houses, we did renovations, we did handyman stuff, we did all kinds of stuff. So downtown Eureka Springs, just outside the public restroom that's right there on the sidewalk. Nasty job. We're retiling it. We're scraping up tile. And you can imagine the residue and the junk that's in a place like that.
Yep.
And I'm literally on my knees. I'm a Christian now, so
Going
I'm
to church.
talking.
You're all in at that point. Church all
I'm
the time.
all in,
Yep.
all
Okay.
in at that
All
point,
right.
and I'm
All
talking to God. I'm like, God, I don't think this is what you have for me. What
right.
else? What else is there, Lord?
By the
And
way, for all the listeners, the flooring area right outside of a restroom, whether it's the airport or anything else, is one of the nastiest places you could drop something. Just so everybody knows.
true,
Yeah.
true that.
Yeah. So you're
And so
having the conversation.
I'm there,
God, what?
and so tourists are on the sidewalk there, and someone walks by, and they're wearing, probably the first time I'd seen a shirt that had some kind of Christian message. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, to witness to someone or to just share your belief. And I saw that, and it was like a little explosion in my head that that's what I'm going to do. And it was just, it wasn't any audible voice, but it was really clear, like a clear conviction. Like,
How about that?
I can do that. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know. I didn't have money to do whatever that was, but that was the seed that was planted.
Wow. All right. And then did you start at like shows, or did you open a store? Were you wholesaling? What were the beginning stages?
I borrowed a little bit of money from my brothers, and I found a magazine called Campus Life. Campus Life magazine. I forget who publishes it. I think it might have been published out of the Chicago area. And it was primarily geared towards young people leaving high school or in high school thinking about, where am I going to go to college?
Okay.
And so it was geared towards Christian colleges and awareness to a young Christian person. So, way before internet, placed a small 1/6 of a page black and white ad. I had 3 design ideas, had someone do the artwork. I wasn't, doing graphic design. And back then, I don't even think the little Apple Macintosh was made quite yet, or I wasn't exposed to it. So it was all by hand or other, graphic design methods. And purchased this 1/6 of a page black and white ad for $600. And it was that kind of thing back in that day where it was, mail your check here, put an X by the design you like,
I remember
circle your size.
Yes.
Trust us, you'll get it eventually, and stick it in the mail with your check. And I would go and check P.O. Box 13 in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, in this historic old post office.
Now keep in mind, there's no inventory sitting in a warehouse. You're like, if I get the money in, then I'll print the shirts.
It was gather the orders, pray they come, gather them up, take them to a local garage operation screen printer. Hey, make these shirts for me.
Great.
And, weeks later, that person got their shirt.
How about that? Do you remember I'm sure you remember opening the mail that first time with a check in there. You're like, holy cow. Somebody sent me money. A stranger sent me money.
Yeah. It was really cool. Little envelopes, little checks.
That's so good. That is so good. Wow. That's the beginning. Okay. Now it's probably a good time. Give us the overview now for everybody that maybe hasn't heard of Kerusso. Give us the whole pitch and where the company is today, the message.
Yeah.
Give us the overview. Go for it.
Very good. So fast forward from the mailbox and the outsourcing to the local garage printer. We now sit on a 10-acre campus, 4 buildings, 150,000 square feet, about 120 employees.
Wow.
We're in thousands of retailers, mostly in the US, but also outside the US. We have several different brands, all with a Christian faith theme to them.
Okay.
We do a lot of products in addition to t-shirts. That's still our core and the majority of what we do, but we do stainless steel drinkware, embroidered headwear, journals, stickers, tote bags, jewelry, all kinds of stuff. And we're considered to be the premier, largest, best known maker of Christian themed apparel in the country.
I love it. And you also sell on your website, so you sell direct to consumer e-commerce, and then you're wholesaling to retailers. Do you have your own brick and mortar stores as well?
Not anymore. We had a store in Eureka Springs for 25 years. It was on the road to the Great Passion Play, which is still a terrific outdoor drama that happens in Eureka Springs. But no brick and mortar.
Okay. And tell me how you're doing the shirts. Are you bringing in gray goods from overseas? Are you dyeing it here? Are you finishing it here? I was a COO for a women's apparel company back before I started Riderflex, so I kind of know the lingo. How are you finishing up the products?
Absolutely. So primarily, we have relationships with major mills who create t-shirt blanks.
Okay.
And so we're buying blanks.
All right.
We're printing probably more than half of them in-house.
So you're bringing blanks. So you have blanks stored in Arkansas, and then okay. All right.
And so they're doing 40 to 60,000 units a week here in our shop. We have partners in in other places when, that help us with a lot of our Walmart stuff.
Okay.
And
So for mass orders, are you bringing in finished goods from overseas for your mass orders, like t-shirts to sell huge quantities?
Yeah, sometimes it just depends. Sometimes we're still buying a blank and delivering it to a printer, that's near shore.
Okay.
Other times we're doing a package program. Just depends,
Okay.
looking at the
Okay.
pricing, the timing, and things like that. But yeah,
So,
we do some full package programs from some various places as well.
is apparel what, 80% and accessories are 20%, or what's your breakdown?
It's right around there. Yeah, right, real close to that.
Okay, very good. And the accessories, if I remember, well, t-shirts are good margin too. I guess it, depends. I mean, depends on what you're selling, right?
Yeah, for sure. Certainly there's some items that are, have better margins than others.
And you can't, if I remember right, you can't like trademark or anything, any of the designs or the words or the sayings. Can people just copy that? Remind me how that works.
It's tough. So, trademark is typically reserved for brands.
Mhm.
Once in a while, we'll feel so strongly about a design message that we'll trademark. It's very difficult to get copyright, which is
Yes.
another form of protection for words only. Has to be design, and so much of what we do, certainly there's a lot of art and graphic design involved, and we have such an amazing, talented team. But oftentimes the message is the star, and it's often the clever part of what we do, married with beautiful design that just makes it a winner. So
I was curious.
yeah.
And you're still 120 employees. Can you share revenue, or I know it's pretty private? I don't know. Can you give us a general idea?
We're closely held, in the tens of millions.
Okay, very good. Congratulations. Are you still active CEO day to day running the company, or are you kind of a part-time CEO?
No, I'm fully engaged. Yeah. Up to my elbows.
All right. I'm sure you've had conversations with your wife about bringing in a CEO and taking a little breather, or have you not had that conversation?
She would like me to be a little more present.
Gotcha. And your kids, I didn't ask you. Kids are grown, grandkids.
Yeah.
What do you got? Yeah. Well, tell me.
I've got 3 kids, 32, 29, and 21, and now 2 granddaughters.
Nice.
One
Me
is
too. Yeah, same.
6 months, and the other one is about a week and a half.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
She gets to go home today. She came a little early, but she's doing great, and she gets to go home today.
Have you decided are you gonna be Papa, Grandpa? What have you decided what your name's gonna be?
We've decided that I am Poppy.
Poppy. Okay. All right. I know that because that's a big conversation. I remember we had like weeks of conversation with my family when they were trying to figure out.
But I've also seen and learned, and same with my kids and my mom, how sometimes the grandchild names the grandparents, and then
exactly
you change your plans because that was so cute. We're going with Peepaw or whatever.
Any of your grown children involved in the business?
Yes, my eldest son is our VP of marketing.
Okay.
And my youngest son is working down in the warehouse.
How about that? All right. And your wife? No,
not anymore. Not anymore. In the early days, she was doing the payroll where you had to look it up with the chart and calculate and take the old punch time cards and turn it to military time and subtract. And anyway, she used to do all that and run our QuickBooks and accounting.
I'm sure, though, if your wife kind of cruises through the office and she's like, I really wish that desk was over here. Don't you guys think it would look better? I bet it gets moved.
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah. I welcome the input.
My wife is involved here with our recruiting and staffing firm. And, it's so fascinating. Her title on the org chart ranks below other people that have been working with me longer, right? Because Kim kind of came into the business later. So she technically reports up to those people. And I have a very delicate conversation with them. I just say, here's the thing about Kim. You just have to remember she is married to the founder and CEO. And I realize she reports to you on the org chart. But if she feels pretty strongly about something, might be a good idea to just take care of it.
Yeah. That's wise instruction.
Well, he's built a wonderful business. Congratulations on what is it, 36 years?
Yeah, 36. We celebrated 35 last year.
That is a wonderful
accomplishment.
It's wonderful
accomplishment. It really is. It's a blessing. And
at this point, you probably have no debt. You probably own the buildings, own the property. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, and that was really the case early on. Again, back to my upbringing, right? You don't get overextended. Debt isn't great for you. And now, debt you can fund and you have a plan. I believe, that's okay. But back in the day, I didn't believe in debt at all. And
yeah, good. Yeah.
And so we've lived that way, very, fiscally conservative. And
well, good for you. What about lines of credit? I remember in the apparel company for women's, we launched 4 or 5 lines, the spring line, the fall line, whatever. And we'd have to have a line of credit to build up for that launch. Do you have to do that with t-shirts or no?
Yeah, no, we've been self-funding for a long time.
Great. Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. Congratulations. I want to ask you, since we have a few minutes left here, I want to ask you some things about your faith and the workers and things. I'm not sure. I know these might be more challenging questions, and you might not want some of this on the podcast. So feel free to just chat with me, and we can cut out whatever you want. But it's got to be. It is a very interesting time right now for us, at least in my opinion, in the country, with so many social things, especially with social media. And for a guy my age, so we're pretty much the same age. And, I get up every day and I look at the news or whatever. And sometimes I tell my wife, I'm like, what world are we living in? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on. Gotta have this conversation. That, and some of the things I see are in direct, I don't know if conflict's the right word, or kind of in direct conflict with your messaging and your culture.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if, has that been a challenge with any of your employees? Have you had any employees push back on you to say, I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, or whatever the hot topic is right now, the hot topic is I'm a girl, not a boy, and all this other stuff. Has any of that affected your culture or your employees? Can you talk to me about that?
Sure. Yeah. I'll give that a try. No, the short answer is no, not really.
Okay.
We are a for-profit company with a for kingdom purpose. So, we have to abide by, the rules of our state and our federal government. And we do that. At the same time, we don't hide who we are or what we believe. I believe, as the owner of the company, there's room for people you don't have to agree with this. We need you to show up, have a good attitude, support what we do with your efforts. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, there's no problem. But so yeah, it's I totally see what you're saying about the times. So far, it has not affected our workplace much that I can see.
Well, that's good. I'm surprised you haven't had something happen.
Yeah. Well, knock on wood. I think the darker the day, the brighter the light looks. And so, as this world seems to get a little crazier and
Weirder. Yeah, weirder.
weirder and weirder. And I think, what we do and what we say and what we stand for through our products, and as Christians, if we're walking the way we should walk, it just becomes more and more evident by contrast. It's just different. And
So if I'm Muslim and I'm transgender and all this stuff, and I want to work for you, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain roles where the being authentically aligned with what we do really, really matters.
Yeah.
There are other roles where, if the other things I said are true, you show up on time, you got a good attitude, you're supporting the mission with your efforts by doing a good job, then there's a place for you. There are other things that, if you don't understand what we're all about, it's very difficult for you to represent it authentically. I don't know if I could think of a great analogy, but let's say, I don't know, maybe it's a bicycling, and it's a cycling brand, and you're maybe on the front line of representing that brand, but you don't ride a bicycle. You don't know how to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
Hey,
you're not
athletic.
You're not. Yeah.
You're not athletic. Hey, you should really, buy our bicycles. Well, how do they ride? Well, I don't know. I've never ridden one, So,
yeah, totally.
Practically speaking, that just doesn't make sense.
Can I ask this? This is a tougher question. I know we're almost out of time. If you had an employee that was on their social media blasting some poison stuff and atheist stuff, but they worked at the company, what would you do?
Wow, I don't know. I would seek the wisdom and experience of
legal.
Yeah, my on-site counsel in HR, and then beyond that, if needed. I think we've had a thing or two in the past. I don't remember them specifically, but that's tricky. With social media, it's all out. It's out there, and
it's out there,
and sometimes it matters.
Yeah, when I saw your brand and your mission, and I just, because I interview all kinds of people, and I'm a business owner too, so I thought to myself, I wonder if anything's flying his way. So I know, but it sounds to me like you've used the word authentic a few times, and I like that approach. I think the other thing too, I would do, if it were me, and I was interviewing somebody, or even if it was a current employee and they had a different mindset, I would just be like, Bobby, like, do you really want to work here? Like, why do you want to work here? I mean,
yeah.
What you obviously don't like the culture or the atmosphere. So why are you here again?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We take that as it comes, and we're an equal opportunity employer, and we play by the rules.
I understand totally. I have, let me just say this, and I know we could go for another hour on the topic, but we're almost out of time here. My mom was, Assembly God, / Pentecostal to a certain degree. Still is, by the way, still is. I mean, my mom tries to resave me every single time I go back home. There's something about Pentecostals where they think they're always trying to, they think you have to be saved over and over and over. And I'm always like, well, I've already been saved. So why do we have to do this again?
My pastor of 25 years, who's no longer with us, he grew up, in that a part of our brethren. And he would joke, he said, I got baptized so many times I shrunk. Because it was every
Yes.
traveling
Every
evangelist, he'd come
time.
up and get saved, and he'd come up and get
Yes.
saved, and go,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. But what I was going to say was, and I'm not, I am a faithful guy, meaning I believe in God. I do say my morning prayers. I also sin a lot too. I like to drink and I like to have a good time and I say curse words and I don't go to church. So I'm not like what I would call a good, faithful, religious guy, but I am a believer, if that makes sense.
yeah.
And I grew up, my mom just ingrained it in us. And I do believe this might piss off some of my listeners, but whatever. I do believe part of what is happening in society, especially this country, with all this noise and craziness we're seeing, I believe it is because of a lack of faith and religion that is causing some of that. If we had a little more structure and education and training about faith and religion of some kind, I think it would slow down some of the craziness that we're seeing in a bunch of different areas. That's my opinion. I think because we've gotten away from that, because the little red Bibles aren't passed out in school anymore.
Yeah.
I think is part of the problem. Quite honestly, that's my personal opinion. I could be wrong.
I don't disagree with you. And and one of the things that what we do, it's out there, right? The people who make a decision in the morning to change their shirt, to change the world, and they pull out this instead of that, and they wear that publicly.
Yeah, it's great.
And that we don't know how much difference that is making, but
it is. It is.
Read from one of our industry journals, screen printing industry journals, that a message on a T-shirt, studies indicated at that time, will be read as many as 3,000 times.
How about that? I didn't know that.
Before it goes to the rag box.
Wow.
That's a lot of impressions, right? Social media, lots of impressions, but just change your shirt, change the world.
I love it, man.
And
I love it.
Happens.
Vic, I really appreciate you. Congratulations, man. Great story. Wonderful story. And congratulations on the business. Appreciate you sharing on the Riderflex show.
Thank you. Hey, if your listeners and watchers are interested in 15% off
for Father's Day, I saw that
at Kerusso.com, use the code Riderflex.
Awesome.
For 15% off.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man.
All right.